Hello, my dear students. I hope all are doing good. We are back with a second session of Combustion and Flame. So, in the last session, we studied about what is combustion, what are combustible and non combustible substances, and what are the necessary criteria for the combustion. So, what are the criteria for the combustion? So, we require combustible substances, and also air is necessary for combustion, and certain amount of heat is required. So when you supply the certain amount of heat, the combustible substance will catch fire. So that temperature is known as ignition temperature. The lowest temperature at which the substance catches fire is called its ignition temperature. So can you tell now why a matchstick cannot catch the fire on its own at room temperature? So if you keep the matchstick at the room temperature, will it catch the fire? No, it cannot catch the fire. When you rub the matchstick against the matchbox, then it catches the fire. Here what happens? So when you take a matchstick and you rub this against a matchbox, you can see the matchstick will burn. So how does this happen? So this matchstick head, it is made up of antimony trisulfide. This is the name of the chemical, antimony trisulfide, and potassium chlorate. Okay, so the matchstick head, it is made up of antimony trisulfide and potassium chlorate. Okay, and this rubbing surface, this has powdered glass and little red phosphorus is there. So red phosphorus is less dangerous when compared to white phosphorus, hence it is made up of red phosphorus. So when the matchstick is rubbed against the matchbox, what happens? The red phosphorus, it is get converted into white phosphorus. This white phosphorus, it will react with the potassium chlorate in the matchstick head, and it will produce enough heat to ignite the antimony trisulfide, and then the combustion takes place. So this is how the mechanism of combustion in the matchstick. Clear? So we find that a combustible substance cannot catch the fire as long as its temperature is lower than its ignition temperature. That means the substance should reach the ignition temperature and then it starts burning. Okay, if the temperature is lower than the ignition temperature, then the substance cannot catch the fire. Take for example, you take the cooking oil in a pan and you heat it for a longer time. So when you heat it for a longer time, will that cooking oil will catch the fire? No. And you take kerosene oil and wood, so by themselves they cannot catch the fire. That is, at room temperature they won't catch fire. But if the kerosene oil is heated a little, it will start burning. Okay, and if wood is heated for a little, will it catch fire? No. It doesn't mean that the ignition temperature of kerosene oil is lower than that of the wood. Here what happens? You require certain amount of temperature. When the substance reaches that ignition temperature, then only it catches the fire. So we'll see one activity, how does the temperature helps in catching the fire. Here what you do, you take the sheet of paper and you fold it to make a paper cups. So in one of the cup, you add water, and one more cup you take empty cup and you start heating these two cups. Okay, so here when you start heating the cups, what you observe? If you heat the cup containing water for a longer time, even that water starts boiling in the paper cup. Okay, so why does this happen? Here what happens, we are supplying the heat to the paper cup. Okay, the heat is supplied to the paper cup. From the paper cup, the heat is transferred to the water by the conduction. Okay, so when you pass the heat from paper to the water will start boiling. Okay, here the other side, when you take the empty paper cup, when you start heating the paper cup, what happens? It starts burning because the ignition temperature of the paper is reached and the paper starts burning. But here, in the presence of the water, the ignition temperature of the paper is not reached. Okay, the ignition temperature of the paper is not reached in the presence of the water, hence it will not start burning. Clear? So the paper in the presence of the water will not catch fire, but the empty cup will catch the fire. So this activity indicates that when the paper reaches the ignition temperature, will catch fire. So for any substance, it should have some minimum temperature. Clear? Okay. Next we have inflammable substances. The substances which have very low ignition temperature and can easily catch fire with the flame are called as inflammable substances. Take for example, we have petrol. Okay, so this is a inflammable substances. So this has very low ignition temperature. So when you heat it, it will easily catch the fire and it will burn. And we have LPG. And also we have CNG, that is compressed natural gas. And also we have alcohol. So these are some of the examples for the inflammable substances. Means they have very low ignition temperature and they can easily catch the fire. Such substances are inflammable substances. So next, how do we control the fire? So by the fire extinguisher, we can control the fire. So how do we do that? You must have heard that there are fire breaking out at homes or any shops or factories. You may hear that there is a fire burning. Okay, the fire is caught in some of the homes. You have so many cases. So when the fire is caught, what do? You immediately call to the fire extinguisher. The fire brigade station will be there. So you call to those people and the firemen will come and they will off the fire. How do they do this? By pouring the water, they will off the fire. So this water, it acts as the cooling substance. Okay, water cools the combustible substance. Okay, so it cools the combustible substance, means the temperature of the combustible substance is brought below its ignition temperature. So this will prevent the fire from spreading. Okay, so the water vapors, they will surround the combustible materials and helps in the cutting off the supply of the fire or the air. So the fire is extinguished, or you can say the fire is off. Okay, so you have learned that there are three main essential criteria for producing the fire, that is the combustible substance, or you can say it is a fuel, and air and heat. So these are the three main criteria for the burning. So what these firemen will do, they will control the fire by removing any one of these criteria, that is they will cut off the supply of air, or they may bring down the temperature of the fuel, okay, to off the fire. So by this you can know that water is a common fire extinguisher, okay, but this water, it will extinguish the fire only in some of the cases, like wood. So if the fire is caught by wood, paper, so in such cases we can use water for extinguishing the fire. Suppose if electrical equipments has caught the fire, so that time you cannot use the water, because this water, it will help in the conduction of electricity, okay. So and this will harm the electrical equipments. So when the electricity is conducted by the water, the fire will not extinguish, okay. So in such cases the water is not suitable for fires in electrical equipment, and also in oil and petrol. So this water will not help in extinguishing the fire, because this water is heavier than the oil. It will sink below the oil, and the oil keeps on burning, so water cannot extinguish the fire. So to extinguish the fires involving the electrical equipment and also the petrol or the oil, so you require carbon dioxide, okay. So that time this carbon dioxide is used as the extinguisher. We can say this carbon dioxide is the best extinguisher, okay. This carbon dioxide is heavier than the oxygen, so it covers the fire like a blanket, okay. So how does this work? When this carbon dioxide is used, this carbon dioxide, it will cut the contact between the fuel and the oxygen, and it will control the fire, okay. So in most of the cases this carbon dioxide is used, okay. It will not harm the electrical equipment. That is one of the most added advantage of using the carbon dioxide, okay. So how do we get the supply of this carbon dioxide? It can be stored at a high pressure in a cylinders, like how we store the LPG. Like the same way, the carbon dioxide is stored at the high pressure as a liquid in the cylinders, okay. Like when released from the cylinder, this carbon dioxide expands in volume and cools down. So it not only forms a blanket around the fire, it also bring down the temperature of the fuel, okay. It brings down the temperature of the fuel. So that is why this carbon dioxide is an excellent fire extinguisher, okay. And this is one of the way how we store the carbon dioxide. And one more thing, we can use the carbon dioxide as we can use the chemicals like sodium bicarbonate, okay. The chemicals like sodium bicarbonate, this is also called as baking soda, or you can use potassium bicarbonate, potassium bicarbonate. So these chemicals are used. So near the fire, when you use these chemicals, these chemicals will give off the carbon dioxide. So then the carbon dioxide is used as the extinguisher. Clear? Okay, we'll stop here. We'll continue in the next session. Thank you.